and I've taken most of the basics out. So, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to a long lost episode of Rope from Worldwide Team Basecat and Downriver Sound. Um, it was a good mining year, and now that winter's coming, let's get back to building car audio. And this summer, we might not be mining, so let's hope. And tonight we are doing manufacturer teams, and our special guest is right here with us, Eric Carver, and we are talking about, of course, what the cat likes, what I like, what Eric likes.
It's popular for a reason, you know.
Yeah, I like it because when I found out about them, I found out of everybody local, including people like Ray Pimley and his DC Jeep. You know, that was like the biggest build close. And when his Honda got stolen, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do anything with, I want something that somebody, if they see a sticker or something, they're not automatically thinking, big money and stuff like that. And when I started looking into Bonce, it was actually way cheaper than everything else locally, which no offense to DC or Sky High or anything, but we all live in
not at all.
California, and I understand, guys. California is expensive. What up, Jay, Maria, Willie?
Well, in the end, all of this is expensive. I don't care if you go budget or not. If you're doing it right, it's all expensive, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't brand hate. You know,
Yep.
you get these guys that say, well, you're on a team. That's the only thing you recommend. Honestly, yeah, I'm going to tell you about my equipment, and I'm going to tell you about my build. But I'm not going to discriminate anybody else's equipment. Honestly, I like DC Audio. You know, those guys' equipment is always really good.
Yeah.
You know, there's other brands out there that you can run. Just because you're on a team doesn't mean that you need to hate everybody else. You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
if what we have doesn't fit what somebody's looking for, absolutely, I will recommend something else because I'm trying to get a person taken care of, and that's the more important thing there. But like I said, up front, yeah, I'm going to tell you, well, here's my equipment, here's my manufacturer, and here's what we got going on. You know, a lot of guys like you're talking about budget wise. I mean, it really fits the bill. And if you want to go stupid expensive, then they've got that category covered for you too. But even the budget equipment is just, it's durable. And that's amazing for even the price that you're paying on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. And I wanted something different though. So if it did get stolen, it's not like, 5 people even had Bonce equipment, so it'd be real easy to be like, yeah, here's the paperwork, officers, and there's the equipment. See, the serial numbers match, bro.
Well, that's, I had a guy locally who was giving me a mess because I didn't lock my car. I didn't lock my car when we were at a Walmart, and I looked at him and I said, number one, okay, if you can get into that enclosure and dig that 126-pound sub out of there by yourself, I said, bravo. I said, if you can run with it, even better. But there is no way in hell that you're going to be able to sell a DB 521 Neo without everybody in like the next 6 states contacting me immediately. So, I didn't even worry. I don't even worry about that situation there because if you jack those, they're one of a kind at this point because we changed them to 18s and everything. But yeah, you run around and try and get rid of those subs. Now, dude, you might as well just sell it for scrap because anybody that you talk to is going to get right with me on that. So yeah, my buddy was giving me mess about it though. He's like, you don't like your car door? I'm like, I'm going into Walmart for 5 minutes. If they can get it out of there in 5 minutes, man, bravo.
Yeah. I kind of laughed though, because I mean, even, because I mean, it is bad out here in California, depending on, the more south you go, the worse it gets. The more north you go, as long as you're decent to people, you shouldn't have any problems, but there still are those bad apples. But yeah, I really liked it because just nobody knew of them and everything looked good. And then looking at the ATUs, because I was wanting to push after seeing Hayden and talking with Hayden. I was kind of like, man, I think I kind of want to do that too.
Right.
So the first
Well,
enclosure
and that's how
for
it
that
usually happens, though, isn't it?
yeah, for that first super sport, I decided that I was going to build a single sub box just to see what it'd do in the truck. Threw the Machete Super Sport in there and had it hooked up to a Crescendo Symphony S1 that I had before I bought the ATU 2000s, and put it in there, and the box literally just blew apart. And I was like, "All right, well, the baffle's gone."
Learning curve.
Yeah, and it's like, huh, that baffle just went, bro. And my buddy's looking at me, and he's all, yeah, but look at the whole port. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, look down at the port. And I was like, I look over towards the port, and it's just all just crushed. And I was like, I'm like, wait a sec, that just broke like 16 screws. And I started looking down in the front of the baffle with the sub still in spot, and there's broken screws down on the floor. And I'm like, well, that's no good.
I think we've all made that mistake when we first start building and stuff. You don't really know the fine details, like what wood you should use and what glue sets and clamping and all that stuff like that with it. So everybody's had that blow apart box. If you haven't done one, then you haven't tried hard enough and you didn't learn any lessons coming up.
See, and what I thought was funny is up until this point, I haven't really blown anything up. Of course, the last time I messed with stuff was, the H2000, early 2000s, late 98, 99, 2000, right in that era. So, I mean,
somewhere in there.
Yeah, with some Rockford Fosgate 10s. And I mean, I'm not knocking Fosgate, but they're not like having a Death Bonce SA,
I've always put Rockford in a quality category, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but
they've always been a quality item. It's just, yeah, the SPL category subs and music SPL. It's really hard to keep up, but they're still holding ground in the market. So they must be still doing something right. There's that to think about. They don't have all the market, neither do we. So time marches on, and we keep trucking.
Jay asked, or Dobson asked, if you had any relatives in Ohio because he grew up with a Jimmy Carver.
Not off the top of my head, not that I'm aware of. Most of us came down from the Spokane, Washington, and Ione area in the Washington area on Dad's side of the family. So otherwise, mom's side of the family was here in the Sioux City, Iowa area here. So I can't say that I know of any out there now. Okay. Who knows? You know how it is. You could be related and don't know it.
Grandpa's side moved into Sisseton, South Dakota, and then Grandma's side of the family was from Peaver, and then we've been out here between California and Washington, and now half the family's in Arizona and Texas, except my dumb ass.
Well, and see, we're not too far from that Sisseton, South Dakota area there that you're talking about there. I mean, Sioux City is only about an hour south of there, and a lot of our comps that we were doing with Dan O'Brien were up around the Yankton and Vermilion and Huron area here this year. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time traveling up and down through that area chasing Dan O'Brien. I always tell him, I said, the only reason why I'm chasing you is because you got my trophies.
uh, yeah. So we know. I don't know if everybody knows this, but there is like what I've told a lot of people about Worldwide Team Base Cat is it's more. It doesn't sound cool as a group, but it's more like a family to where if you've got cats and you're a base head, then we're all good, But team sounds better, versus like that worldwide base cat group doesn't sound too attractive. But
Well,
worldwide team base cat does, and then having people like Valipa from overseas and Nikolai Zerkovsky from Russia and stuff like that. I mean, it gets it out there to where, we've got people in Brazil and stuff. And the reason why I wanted to do a worldwide group was for people like any of us over here or any of them over there. If we're doing world finals and we actually went somewhere, like went down to Brazil, then anybody a part of that should be able to help hold doors or whatever, while
right.
you're
Well,
metering
it
and
gives
stuff,
you
so you wouldn't be by yourself.
it gives you somebody that you know when you're going to these events too. I mean, doing
Yep.
your locals and doing your national finals and stuff like that, that's one thing. You're going to run into a group of
Yeah.
people, at least one group of people that you're going to get along with. Even if you don't know somebody, you're going to find somebody you slide right in with. But when you talking going to another country, I spent my time abroad in the military.
Yeah.
And, when you go to a different country,
Yeah.
you kind of off balance a little bit here, because I'm going to tell you, a lot of cultures and customs are real changers and eye openers compared to what we're used to. But having somebody that you actually know
Yeah.
there to kind of help you out so you don't look like a complete tourist is also helpful too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
a big factor, because
that's
you don't want to go to another country and go and represent something like that. Go to another country and slip up and do something that's inappropriate by their cultural standards
right.
accidentally, not even realize it. So do your homework
Yep.
and something like that, but make sure that you got somebody that you know
Yeah.
there that can kind of tell you you're being stupid if they have to.
Yeah. And I laughed because the reason why I also started it is one, when I got the first ATU box in, it was for 1500, and those in the LW64 case, the cat took them over.
Yeah.
Like my cat literally took that box over, and I showed Vlad. I was like, bro, this cat sleeps in this box, dude. And when I had an amp problem, it popped on me, and I showed them. They wanted video, so I showed them that no, the wiring was hooked up right and everything, and this is how it's all done. And they looked, and they were like, "Yeah, you got it right." So yeah, so loaded it back up in the box and send it back to us. And I'm like, "All right, well, he's gonna be pissed while his box is gone, bro." And Vlad kind of laughed, and was like, "Ah, just send it." I was like, "Okay, cool, whatever."
So that's
And
that's what mine used to do. Is in the building shop there, I'd have extra boxes, or I'd have like 2 or 3 boxes that I built for some guys waiting to get picked up. And if she wasn't right out in the open, you got to crawl in the box before you hand it off, because you might be actually handing off a cat in the box with it.
yeah, well, what was
Hey, I got
funny
that. I
is
got that new
I
box done
loaded
for
the
you,
amp
and it
up
comes with
with 2 free cats.
yeah, it comes with a mystery gift. You get home, and all of a sudden, this
Yep.
random cat just pops out of the box.
But I laughed because they sent the amp back in the original shipping box. So his box literally went from Florida to Cali, back to Florida, back to Cali. And I was
So
like,
so he
dude,
got to keep his box in the end, though, right?
oh yeah. And I started laughing, and I was like, "You see this?" And Vlad started laughing. I showed the picture over in Russia to a couple of my friends that I talked to on uh, that have shops and stuff, and they were laughing, and they're like, "Yeah." They're all, "You know why we have our cats?" And I was like, "Well, I figure for keep the mice and stuff out." And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "But have you ever noticed the cats like bass?" And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, look." And uh, Victor and them at Alfred Customs, when they did that Super Sport, they had Avatar, Dennis's cat, sleeping up
Oh,
on it
okay.
was sleeping up on the car, and Victor's all, "Yeah, see, Avatar's here to give us good luck." But as soon as they hit it with full power, dude, Avatar was like, "I'm out."
Yeah, I was cool for
18,000's a
you with a
little too much.
minute. Yeah, I was cool with
Yeah.
you for a minute there, but yeah, just for a minute though. That's about it. Now, mine used to get into the boxes at the shop there all the time. We'd be cutting and building,
Yeah.
but she either was in the shop or she was in my bedroom with me. There was no in between. So if you couldn't find her in one of those spots, you better start digging in the boxes there. And now we always tell guys
Yeah.
that check the box before you leave. Okay, she might
Yeah.
be there with you because she loves everybody and everything. She doesn't care who you are.
Nice. Yeah, and I think
And
that's
then,
cool because I mean, I've got like, and I did these. Like this is one of the original,
nice.
and it's got the female cat. This one, of course, has the female cat not wearing her crown, but then there's the male cat, and then that's 275, the SA 275
Okay.
that I used to
Actually,
model
that's
that sub off of.
the funny thing about it is you hear the 27.5 come up so much when you're talking to somebody who actually has started off with DB and really likes DB. You hear kind of a common
Yeah.
theme there where and it's the very same with me. Donnie Voorhees, a guy I've got over here on Poor Boy Audio, he's teamed Def Bonce up here in the Northlands too. Um, I was getting ready to kind of do a sixth order and I wanted to try something different. And he had a couple of 2715s laying around. I said, well, okay,
Okay.
I hadn't tried the equipment. I had watched the videos. I had molded over. I thought about it, at the time. And a lot of guys are going to give me some static on this. Uh, when we first started off with Team Poor Boy, we actually started off as Team Soundstream. Uh,
Okay.
we ran with Team Soundstream for about 2 years. And then my partner and myself, we decided to kind of invest into our local personal team and kind of get things put together a little bit more there. So we left Team Soundstream there, and Donnie comes walking over. He had his sub stored in my shop there because he was kind of shifting some things around at the time. And I asked him, I said, you don't mind if I use these, do you? I'll build a whole sixth order to this thing. So he tosses me those. I
Oh,
drop it
okay.
on. I drop it on like a smart 3K because at the time, I wasn't dedicated to anybody at that point in time. I was trying different equipment, and
Yeah.
we put that whole thing together in about a week. And I didn't even have it painted or finished yet. I went straight for what was it? It wasn't Wheel Jam. It was another. It was up in Sisseton. It was up in Sisseton, South Dakota. There,
Okay.
I think it was the bowling alley that they have up there. We go up there
Yeah.
and under 3,000 watts, I dropped off like a 52.8 and then turned around and did a 51 music average sitting on the roof of my car the whole time for a minute and a half. I honestly, at that
Nice.
point, I was sold. I was sold. I was hooked. But you hear that common theme of like the either the 27.5 or the 2715s. You always hear about the 2 and 3/4 inch voice coil like 15s. It just kind of it strikes me as weird that everybody who gets into DB starts with those, and that's what sells them.
Well, I started with the Super Sports, and as soon as I got the pair, once I fired that one up and blew that box apart, I got right back on the horn and asked GP. I was like, bro, do you got any more of those? And he's all, those
Right.
were the last two, dude. And I'm like, ugh. So I got on the horn and started calling, messaging everybody in Florida, please tell me you have some of these.
Start putting
We've
out the
got
word.
ones, D1s. Yeah, we got some D1s, and I was like, no, that won't work. I need D2s. Because I just like the simplicity of 1 amp per sub. It just, when it comes to wiring, it's really simple. Real simple.
Well, and that's the same way with most of my builds. If I can just run 1 amp for the subs that I've actually got going on for that build, then that's what I try and do. I try and keep everything simple, because if you have to break something down to get back in the lanes and you only got about 5 or 10 minutes before you got to do that, you got to be able to make sure that you can actually work on your equipment, So I like that simple game too. And I tell a lot of guys on my local team here, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it, because if you have to get in there and you have to do something fast, you're going to be in a panic and you're going to end up behind the 8 ball on that one.
Yep.
But yeah, and one of the other ones, the other ones that you commonly hear is like the machete fights. The machete fights were a really big one that a lot of first time users, that you hear a lot of those guys using too. Great budget sub there. And I got a guy on, once again, on the local team here that's sponsored by Bonce, and he loves his 15 machetes, man. That guy will romp and stomp those things all day. And I mean, he has put the boots to him over like the last 2 or 3 years. And besides the fact that they just look, sun worn because they've been out so much and he's ran them for so long, they were perfectly fine.
I laughed because, I got it. Jacob, I can't buy those. Those subs got me banned from Crutchfield, bro, because I kept blowing them up with power. He said Infinity Reference Series were sold as Hulk. Yeah, that was bad back in the day. But Death Bonces, I was watching some videos where they took some of the bigger builds, like Artem's Hummer over there, and they took the essays out, and they put I want to say they did the machete lights.
I want to say it was the machete lights. Was it the 12s? I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was the 12s.
R's or something, or the S's. And just
and he still went over there and just beat people's gut. Yeah, he was just beating people's guts up with that thing. And that was our lowest budget sub, just walking in there, just going, okay, well, yeah, the good stuff does well, but here's the budget stuff. Here, I'm going to still put some pain on you there. Tap out now,
And I was laughing at the wind too. He was still producing wind with those lights, and I'm sitting there going, bro, that's a $70 sub versus the almost $500 sub you had in there.
Well, and you think about it too, the X Max on those things is about half of what he was running in those originally.
Yeah.
So you're talking like what, 11 millimeters X Max one way?
Yeah.
And he's still able to beat your guts up?
Yeah.
Like what?
And still do hair tricks?
Yeah, cone area counts for something there, but you got to be able to move the sub too with all that cone area. But the fact that it was a low throw subwoofer in our budget line, and you can still do that with it. I mean, the only thing that's a little bit rough about loving Def Bonce audio and Alfred audio in general is you have to wait for the shipments.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, it's like Christmas time for us on team. And I know there's quite a few, non-team guys that are out there that are big Def Bonce guys that, we're waiting for that new toy catalog to drop there so we can find out what's going on and what we're going to order this month, So, they're actually not. Now that you think about it, it's actually a brilliant marketing strategy because they got us all sitting here on our seats edge like a bunch of crackheads waiting for our fix. So no, I take that back. It's brilliant marketing.
Well, one of my favorites, what I started noticing is when I started looking overseas and looking at the catalog and everything, and I saw some stuff that we didn't have, and it's like, hey, Vlad, and I'll bring up the M60 SQLs. I
Yeah.
begged both sides. I begged both sides. Please send those to me. I need those. I need those. I need those now. And I finally ended up buying the whole case. The first shipment, I bought the whole thing when they came in.
Well, one of the things that you run into when you're a manufacturer company like that is they got to cater to the market. Unfortunately, you can't cherry pick your order there. You got to cater to the general market. So if you want something kind of small and select, you got to do a little finessing through there.
Yeah.
You do have a little bit of different equipment over there than what we do get over here, but a lot of that stuff still does end up over here. And I mean,
Yeah.
when you go over to Europe, they're kind of doing things a little bit different too. It's just like when you go down to like Brazil and stuff, their music and their setups are going to be completely different than what we do here in the US. Even
Big time.
their average tone frequencies are going to be more like in a 40 hertz catalog because that's just their music. You go over to
Well,
Europe, those guys.
what up, GLM? I'd like to see somebody build a Psalm vehicle, which is especially one of the Psalm trucks, like it's what is it? Extreme. It's Treme. I forgot what it is in Brazil, but basically it's a diesel truck trailer. And Sound Digital built one, and one of the other companies down there built another one. But I was talking to a bunch of Brazilian dudes that I worked for, and they told me at 7 miles away, dude, it sounds like one of our clubs in Sacramento, like a nightclub in Sacramento.
Nice.
And I was like, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Well, you're watching the videos of this trailer." He goes, "Look at the dirt, bro." And in front
Well,
of the trailer, you can
some
see
of
the
those
dirt
as you're
going
watching
like
it.
this and just.
Well, and you can see like the actual impact on the crowd. You can see like crowd hair and stuff like that, and they're turning and running away.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they were all hyped up until they turned it on, and then all of a sudden you see half the crowd just retreating for their life, and I'm like, okay, that's not a spoof video just made for marketing. There, they really put the hurt on those people. Look at it. That's pure panic on her face.
Yep. And I think that'd be fun to do, like, since there is people like, Big Red and Big Red was his first truck. Basin Semi.
John Hall, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
You're
Mr. John.
thinking of John Hall.
Yep.
That's a guy I wouldn't
I
mind catching up with sometime. There's quite a few of us around here in the central Midwest. I'd love to catch up with that guy.
Yeah. And I think it would be actually pretty cool too to take, since I mean, heck, there's the driver. Hey, bro, let's build this huge trailer.
Come pick it up on the weekends. You get done running about 1,600 miles for the week. Stop by the garage, pick up the Basin trailer, go make your own party somewhere.
Yep. Or take it to like
Come back.
Swam and stuff like that, and be like, all right, we got a treat for you guys. This is.
But that's where you got to be careful though, because you've got the two sides of the story there. Some people love those demo walls, and others absolutely hate them. So you have to wonder if you're going to fall into the right crowd with that or not when you show up.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think it's getting out more and more that people understand that they can have the local teams, a national team or a world team, and a manufacturing team. And what's it take to get on Team DB? Because, I mean, there's a lot of things floating around for, some people are saying you need to have everything DB has to offer. Some people are saying that the wire doesn't matter. Sometimes the battery banks or power cells don't matter. Sound deadener,
First and foremost, when you're talking about wanting to get on to an actual a sponsored, marketed manufacturing team, you want to be promoting their equipment to start with. You want to be out there actually positively promoting the equipment. The biggest thing that you can do is know the equipment. And that's not just know what it says on the manual or what the catalog does or what your buddy said it does. I'm talking if you've got the equipment in your car, you better know what you're doing with that too. Because you join like a sponsored team or something, and you don't know your build well enough, or you're not skilled enough to keep your system in check, and you start blowing equipment left and right. Well, they're going to start kind of looking at you, going, "Okay, you're blowing equipment all the time. We're not sure if it's user error or what the deal is here." But then there's a point at which it's fun blowing stuff up. Don't get me wrong. Throw a sub, throw a window or two, things like that. But if you're blowing an amp at every competition that you go to,
I'd rather break windows and body parts on the car than my equipment, bro, to be honest. When I blew that Machete
50-50
Sport V2, yeah, well, when I blew that V2, the reason why I blew it is because I got some new music in. And I'm not even going to say who sent it to me, but it wasn't. When I looked back over it, it was not clean at all. And he turned up the bass boost on it, which I did. He didn't tell me he did. So where I had everything DD1'd to where I could turn 60 on the volume, full crank on the bass knob, and knowing where the S1 sat, it was not clipping through all the rest of my music.
Right.
And I even let it play for a half hour. Just here, eat and have fun, girl. Yeah.
I do that mess all the time at shows. It just turn it on, and I'll just throw the doors open and walk away for like an hour or so, and then come back just to check and make sure that it's all right. Yeah, still there. All right. Come back. Go talk to somebody else for a minute. I've never had a problem with our equipment in that matter either. That's kind of nice too.
Yeah. And I laughed because I played one song and I'm sitting there and I wasn't looking at the bass knob, and I should have been looking at that damn clip light, but I wasn't. And I'm sitting there looking back at the port, and then all of a sudden it looked like I had Cheech and Chong, both in my little cab of my Nissan mini truck. Ooh. And they just hot boxed the whole entire vehicle like that.
Oh, and let the magic smoke fairies out.
Yeah, first thing I thought was, you've got a fire back there. So I was like, uh-oh. So I cut the box open with the saw and took the whole half off the top, and I look and there's no fire, and I'm like, whew. So I pushed on it, and oh god, you could hear it. But what happened was
like slinky.
what we were talking about earlier is that spider, after playing for so long and finally getting broke in at those rates, I actually hit the bottom of the coil and blew about that much of the coil off the former. So it was sitting and just
arcing.
So
yeah, like, just arcing and frying.
I didn't get it on. So I started laughing, and I'm like, well, you didn't get it on video. Let's see if it plays. So I turned it on a little bit, and it's all, and you can hear the slink inside there. And I was like, dude, you got to finish this off for video. So I turned it up, and got it on video to, finish him. And it was like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to blow this. You were just telling me in an email, one of my buddies over in Russia that does, he said he was building subs at the time. And I was like, okay, if he's building subs for Death Bonce, then my bad, bro. I didn't mean to
Right.
destroy this thing, but since it's already jacked up, let's finish it.
Well, and
So,
that's where you got to draw the distinction line there. Okay, having one bad day, what was it? It was just this year too. I had just spent all this time tracking down two DB521 Neos, and it took me a year to actually track those bad boys down. Because
yeah.
if you know anything, you know that there's probably there was only like 10 of them in the U.S. You know,
Yeah, and
maybe
I know
they
of
sold
one
10 of them.
person in Canada. We both know
So
one
I
person
finally
in Canada.
I finally got my hands on a pair of these. Okay, so I'm thrilled, especially the price that I paid for them. I'm not even going to say because people
Nice.
are going to get mad, but let's just say I got them for a steal and they were blown. Well, we took over the winter time here, and I one of the guys that's up here with me, in my area is Tage and Cole. Take him over to his shop. The guy is amazing at doing stuff like this. Puts them together. We get these 21s rebuilt right back the same way, if not better. So we go out to our big event down here in Sioux City, which is a weekend event called 712 Boom. And
Okay.
I get done with the lanes. It's like Saturday afternoon. I get done posting up all my numbers. I go through base wars, and every time I go through base wars, I do 7 classes. So I run
Okay.
every music class and one burp category wherever I fit in, but I will run every music class on their sheet that they'll let me run. So I've already put the boots to this thing pretty good, and it's holed up. There's no problems. It didn't even get warm, didn't even smell, no, nothing like that. I don't even think I got it broke in. I go out of the lanes, and I think it was about 5 minutes after that, I had my girlfriend's son, one of his friends jumps in the car for his first ever big demo. I said, all right, I live for this moment, your first big demo. So I start leaning on it a little bit. I get about 70%. It's all going good. And I start watching my windshield just waving like water. If you've seen any of the videos of my car lately, I mean, that
Yes.
windshield just looks like the ocean. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna
It looks
put on a
like it was
show for
made
this
in
first timer.
Hyundai.
Right. I'm gonna put on a show for this kid for his first demo here. So screw it. Let's see if the windshield goes. And I lean on it, man. I go full send, and I forgot that all of my settings were set up for in the lanes. So I was, instead of dialed up for 6,000 watts for demoing and backed all the power levels down, I was still set up for 10,000 watts off the burp that I had just done coming out of the lanes. I drop I drop off 10K on that thing. And I will tell you, that thing held for like 2.5 minutes. And I'm trying to lean on this thing to get that windshield to blow, just to let it go, just to have, that one moment for this guy when he got in his first car and takes a windshield. And instead I
Yeah.
end up sending this 521 to the moon. Okay. It's
Oh,
the
man.
cone is still orbiting Saturn somewhere in the rings, I think. Okay, user error, of course, but it made for a hell of
Yeah.
a video. It made for a hell of a
Oh,
story,
yeah.
and it's not something that I ever do. Okay, if
Yeah.
you're running into something like that, absolutely, that's going to happen to everybody. We all have our days, we all have our special moments. That was mine.
Yep.
But if you're doing it at every show, then people can get the
Yeah.
wrong impression. Okay, they can get the impression that
Yep.
the equipment isn't up to par, and that the reason
Right.
why you keep having these problems is because the equipment isn't quality equipment. You have to
See,
think about the back of people's heads with stuff like that too.
and that's one of my problems. Um, I have to show, like, having the budget equipment. I still have a pair of ALT or AL165P coaxial machetes and a pair of
Yeah,
XBR 613 6.5-inch Avatar coaxials
avatars. Yep.
because everybody used to say, you can't hook coaxials to deck straight to a head unit and have it sound good. So there's
Sure you
challenge
can.
number one.
Sure you can.
You know,
Now trying.
so I did it, and I kind of laughed because it was like, all right, this sounds good to me. But having a new system and people are saying, well, I've never heard of this brand, and how is it compared to these DC level sixes and stuff like that? And it's like, well, bro, honestly, you'd have to throw me in that ride with those DC level sixes so I could see, and then I might be able to tell you. Or you can see what I have and listen to it. And one of my buddies was like, all right, he's all, I want a new sub anyways. And he was moving from Kicker. And I showed him our machetes, and he was like, oh. He saw the Super Sport, and then he saw the Sport V2, and he's like, that one's in my price range. Okay, well, they've got it in stock, at Down for Sound. Grab it up, and it'll be here at your house in 2 days, Okay. We built a box for that. That was cool. He still had it the last time I talked to him, but one of the boxes of the 165s went straight into his doors and of his Ultima, and we laughed because we pulled it up to the fairgrounds and started walking away with it, playing with the doors open, and these kids are playing over in the sand where they fill up sandbags and stuff. And I was like, hey, can you guys hear that? And they're all, yeah. Does it sound good? And they're all, yeah, we can hear the whole song. And I was like, cool. And I looked at my buddy, and he goes, those were $40, dude. He goes, the only reason why I even thought about spending that money is because you had a pair in your truck and I heard them. And I'm all, yeah. I said, well, I'm not going to go buy the machete lights and stuff right now. I said, but it would kind of be cool to have, the ability to pull in all the little stuff and show the locals, because there's not a lot of people with super bank at first unless they start seeing
No.
No.
I know guys who make 80 grand a year and they start off with budget systems. And you know what? I'd rather have a guy start at the bottom and work his way up, because he's going to go through the process. He's going to learn how to do his build. He's going to learn what his budget is. And even if he makes mistakes along the way, that budget build is going to be small mistakes, not big mistakes.
Right.
Make your mistakes early, so you're not spending $3,000 or $4,000 on something and you don't really have the experience to keep it going and then smoke it.
Yeah. See, and that's where I kind of laughed at, those super sports. When I saw the price of those, I about tripped, because I just watched them take that 18,000 watt burp and was like, okay, if they can do that, they're going to be able to handle 2,000 watts all day long, no problem.
Sure, absolutely.
And $209, so it was $420 shipped. And I'm like, dude, I can't get one sub at the time. The PSI I was looking at for the same wattage class was more than $500 at the time, or more than $420. So I was like, dude, I'm getting two subs versus one. I know where I'm going.
Well, and when it comes down to it,
as nasty as they were,
when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you still got those on the shelf too, though. When you buy those, even a couple years down the road, they've endured. You can either sell those off to somebody, who's starting off themselves, or you make a shop or whatever, stereo system with them or whatever have you around the shop there. But the thing about it is they endure. They're still there after you're done using them. They're still there.
What's funny is I've still got one that's never seen power to this day.
Now, everybody, we're going to be honest. If you're actually a bass head, you have at least 2 or 3 pieces of equipment that you haven't even taken out of the box yet. You thought about making an awesome little plan for it, And then you got to it, and then things change, and you're like, well, maybe I'll add a little bit more to it. And the next thing you know, it got put on the shelf. You forget about it until you're like dusting, or the little lady tells you that you got to get rid of some crap there and make some room. And you're like, oh man, I can't believe I still have that. And then you open it up, and it's still wrapped in plastic and all. So, oh shoot, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I laughed because when I found out that they were discontinued, basically, I was like, all right, I'm not putting power to it. I don't want to, just one, and I hate saying this, but I haven't worked for these guys for a few years, so yeah, meh. But one super sport in a parallel band pass. On the ATU 1500, playing between 9 to 29 hertz. It's really nasty in a medium roof 2015 Ford Transit van.
Yeah, see, that's one of the things with us up here at our poor boy team, our local team. If you look at most of our Bonce sponsored guys, we're all like low end monsters. That
Yeah.
Like, I will use Donnie as an example all the time. He's got 6 18-inch SVLs on a 7900 each, and when he starts going, I mean, he starts going, and you can watch the tires actually shaking on the rims. It's like you're actually worried about him coming off the bead seal as he's playing. I mean, there's so much going through this whole truck, but it's all at just an ungodly subsonic for like 10 hertz. He's literally ripping the space and time fabric with a subsonic frequency at almost 160 dB continuously, and you're just like, yeah, those. When we got down into it, there was a few of us that kind of built for the low ends and stuff like that. And I was playing for like the last 2 years. I was playing like in the Hurricane classes and stuff like that in Base Wars, which is 19 hertz and below continuous. And I love being able to just play the bandwidth. I will play you at 17 hertz, and then I'll go right into a category of 55 and still keep up with you. I'll go wherever the music is being played. That's a category I was playing. So if you're going to give me 7 classes to play in, I'm playing every frequency category you can give me, and I just do it for fun. I don't go in to win. I go in to have fun, but I'm not going to let the class go dead too, because you have to support these organizations. That's the only way that we have this out here. And that's the thing is I don't run all the music categories because, whatever reason you want to insert there. I'll usually end up running all the music categories more along the lines because it's fun to me to just run them all and see what it does. But also you're supporting that organization that's coming out there to do these shows with you too, so they can continue to do that. And that's kind of something else that you have to think about as a competitor and a person who's sponsored too.
Is hitting all the shows. And see, I can remember back in the day, we had shows up here. We had shows in Chico. We had shows in Redding. We had shows in Red Bluff. And
that was a lot of Mecca though out in California, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mecca and Iasca. And whoever does DB drag, just regular DB drag. But I honestly
DB
like
drag.
To see some,
that was the other one that was out there.
Yeah, I'd like to see some ISPLL type stuff out here. Just because I like that subsonic suicide. And I like the rules on the ISPLL. There are none really.
Well, and up here in the Northlands and the Midwest, and you can attest to this because you've been from around this area, you kind of know, we only have like, up until Base Wars came, we've really had only like Midwest SPL that was in the Midwest. Sometimes you get DB drag. What was the other one? Usaki, you would see a little bit of, but for the most part, you would be seeing Midwest SPL. Well, then here comes Billy and the guys and Jimmy and everybody else there with Base Wars, and it kind of gave a little bit more variety up here. but you're still looking at a lot of sparsity. You don't really get any of the other organizations wanting to make a trip into the middle of the heartlands to do any real
Yeah.
shows. So a lot of guys aren't, if you're promoting a show and it's for an organization that just doesn't come to your area, you're not going to call them. There's
Right.
no point because they don't have enough shows in the area for some of these guys to compete to make a national appearance unless they're going to drive 6 to 10 hours to the next location, which, if you're that
See,
hardcore and competing, bravo, but not me. I can't tolerate
I
that much
noticed
time in the car anymore.
for us, because even Ray Pimley became a judge and tried to do a show up in Reading, but the thing is if it would have been advertised more, I think it could have had a bigger gathering, but it almost seemed like they were acting like he was trying to do something, that they didn't want done or something, and I'm like, dude, there's no real advertising around. If no advertising's around, nobody's going to show up. So I was trying to promote it, and I even told a bunch of my basehead friends and showed them stuff, hey, here's it going to be. I know I'm not making it, but y'all need to make it and show up,
Well, and
But a lot
that's
of
another
people
thing,
don't want to drive
is
down to Stockton or Sac,
right.
2-3
How
hours
far
away.
away are those places?
Yeah.
And some of the major shows across the U.S. You've got like Made of Steel, you got Wake the Dead, you've got what is it, Slam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, all of those are at least 11 hours for me to make it to. Or you got the shows in Vegas down there too. That's 13
Yep.
and a half hours. Uh,
15.
I, somewhere in that category. Yeah, somewhere in that category
Yeah.
there. That's
Yeah.
a
The
heck of a stretch through there too.
closest show I would say for like small shows, just to go to a shop, do like a shop show, I think that's an hour away minimum, you know.
Well, in the Midwest, yeah. If you're not traveling, it's in your backyard. There's no
I'm
in between.
talking
You're
even
either
out
going
here.
3 hours or yeah, it's some of these general geographic locations. You're gonna have to drive a few hours to make it to a show, and I'm fine if it's
Yeah.
inside of like 250 miles. I'm good with that, but I got trash knees sitting in the car for too long, driving for 10, 12, 13 hours. By the time I get there, I'm going to have like a wheelchair and about 4 people to get me out of the car. My legs are going to be locked up. I can't do it anymore. But anything else in the radius, I'll make sure to get. But like I said, it comes down to too is what's the presence of those organizations? Are they in that area enough for a guy to want to
Right.
compete in those so that they can make a trip to the finals or world finals or whatever else through there?
Right.
If you've got to drive 11 or 12 hours just to hit like say GB drag or something, yes, yeah, qualify with the guys who are showing up out there. And that's where I say, if you've got somebody in your area, make sure you support these guys doing, and I don't care what organization it is. I got no bias. It's support the
Yeah.
community by supporting the organizations. I don't
Yeah.
always agree with every organization, just like I don't agree with every person out there. You let it
Right.
go and say, this is how we keep it alive. And that's a
Hmm.
great mentality that people need to carry into the table too.
Well, it's
Even
just
when you're
like
doing
um we've got judges like Dan Stockton, and I was thinking about this. We've got Dan and Ray, and then you said Robert, I think it is, for Base Wars.
Northlands is Dan O'Brien, and then we got
No,
Heartland, which is
okay.
Jimmy and Sonia Pittman.
Which one was from California? Was that
Oh,
Robert or Pizz? I want to. I know I'm gonna
are
screw
you
his name
talking?
up. So I'm gonna try.
Are
But
you talking for
Dano said it.
DB Drag?
for Base Wars?
Oh, for Base Wars? No, we only get Dan O'Brien and Jimmy Pittman in the North and Central region here. We did
Right,
have actually. We did have Billy come out here for one of the 712s, so we managed to get him out of the South there for a little bit of Midwest hospitality, but mostly in the base wars here. Like I said, we're kind of remote territory, so
right. Seeing
I don't
for
get to.
us in California, I mean, we've got one judge that I can think of. I can't think of his name, which is probably going to be
Ray
bad because somebody from Base
Richard.
Wars is going to see that. Okay, it's Richard.
Richard is the Base Wars judge out there now, and he used to be an old
Okay.
sound quality judge. He used to be an old SQ judge, if I remember correctly about him. That's a guy I wouldn't mind meeting,
think
in person. Actually, spending a few minutes with him too. Guy's got a great reputation from everybody you hear out there. That guy's got an awesome reputation. Sounds like he's a really good cat, from everything I've seen.
And I've noticed that, to do like the show up in Oregon, what is that called? Surf City? Dude, that's traveling.
Yeah, I think so.
For
yeah, that
90% of these guys, because you got people like Scott Butler down in San Diego and stuff, where, they've got shows down there for them. And I think that's where Richard does a lot of his shows for Base Wars is in SoCal and stuff. And it's like, man, that's 12 hours away. I really don't want to drive down there.
Don't get me wrong, I'm all about supporting the community and stuff, but some of it I can do, some of it I can't.
But then I kind of look at, is it possible to bring enough people local to do a show to where they'd be willing to come up and be paid to come up and, do it, and that's the hard part is because I'm not sure really where, because we used to be basehead community, but out here it seems like the baseheads have kind of died off or we're getting really, really old.
Well, there's another turn to that coin too. You're right. Most of us that I see out there are either in our 20s or we're in like our 40s and 50s. Because we either started off in the 80s and 90s when everything was really coming through. We had our kids, we had our family, military, whatever, and then we came back to it after the kids are raised. All right, we're all middle aged now, so. That could be a possibility, but one of the big factors that also comes into play there too is and this is a real key point here. This is as far as with my local team, and it's a real big thing that we try and do with our actual team, Bonce team there too, is okay, you can't have a community if you're not promoting positively. Okay.
Yeah.
If somebody is causing major disruptions at these shows, nobody wants to go. If you're a trash person putting on the show, nobody wants to go. If they don't want to deal with somebody showing up at a show that they know is going to show up there, they don't want to go. They just don't want to deal with the hassle. You got to promote the positivity of this community. You got to make sure that the people that are there are happy to be there, because that's mostly what it's about is being happy that we've actually got the opportunity to do this. Because, if you go back about 10 to 12 years, there was an awful lack of any of this going on. There's a huge dip there, and it's not as big as what it used to be now. But if you can't promote the positivity, you can't get new people to come along and grow. And number two, you won't keep the people that are there. They're going to basically go, okay, I've had enough of this. Why am I wasting my time? I can build my system and jam out myself without having to deal with this mess.
Mm-hmm.
Positive promotions. Be the example. Be the person that is going to bring new people in and want to be there. Help them out. Take the time to talk to people. I know we all get busy at competitions. Okay. Take the time to talk to people. Take the time to help people. That's how you get this to get bigger. That's how you get those shows showing up more often. That's how you keep your sponsors happy. That's how you keep your people around you happy is Promote that positivity. Be that better example out there at all costs.
Right. See, and that's, sorry about the lighting, but that's one of the things I noticed, when I was watching some of the videos overseas and everything, I was
Yep.
getting to see everybody do these huge overseas shows, and there would be the sponsors and everything, and I would notice from the last show I went to, which almost seemed sponsorless, because one of the local shops was putting it on, but that was really it, and it was just a local shop by themselves. So
Right.
it was kind of hard for them to be getting, I think they gave away some of their shop product, but it was nothing what half of another show would do, you know. And I understand that because that's hard to do. Doing our black
It
powder
is.
stuff is
It
hard to
is.
get, our all our stuff together for giveaways and stuff. I mean, it's not easy unless you can bring the community into it. But then bringing the community into it, there's got to be something more than just the outlook of, well, people like my father, which anytime he hears a stereo system loud, shaking his vehicle, he gets mad. And it's like, dude,
Yep.
you can't see that those people are happy enjoying their music. Hey, Pops, we could put you a system in, and I've told him this several times. We could drop you a system that'll be louder than theirs, and then you can make them listen to your music instead.
Now,
It's
see,
just joking with them to try and
that's
lighten the look of it, And
that's another thing that you have to go against too. Is how are the guys in your community acting? If they're running around with their stereos loud through your town and they're pissing people off in residential areas and stuff like that, you're going to automatically have hard time getting permits for your events. You're
shows
not going to
or
get your city
anything.
council to agree with you on anything at all.
Yeah.
So you
Yep.
have to be careful about stuff like that because you have to think about the next step in front of you here. Yeah, you might just be a competitor now, but what if you become a promoter, or what if you become a judge and you can't even do a
Mm-hmm.
show in your own town because 2 years or
Exactly.
5 years ago you were riding through like a jerk.
Yep.
You just cut
Yep.
your own throat.
Yeah.
So try and do the right thing out there, and it's so easy just to turn the knob down just a little bit. You can still listen to your music and stuff like that, but i I don't really bang, like, even in my own neighborhoods and stuff like that. If I'm in a residential area, I usually drop the bass knob. You might hear a little bit of my mids and trebles, but you're not going to hear me rolling. And that's just because
See, and that's
I've got logos all over my car too, so they know exactly who to complain to. All right, I'm gonna look up poor
yeah.
boy audio here and find out about this poor boy audio who's shaking my house every day. Well, yeah, I'm gonna get some nasty emails,
Right.
and that's something I actively avoid too. Not just
Yeah, and
nasty
that's
emails, just
where
emails in general.
that's where I kind of laughed because when I started testing the truck, I mean, I wasn't really trying to be a dick to my neighbors or anything, so I was doing it mostly while we were gone, you know, get off work, on Friday and look around the neighborhood because instead of doing the speed limit, I was doing 90 all day so I could get home a couple hours early before 5, you know,
just
and
to try and get a couple of cranks off real quick there with the meter or something, before everybody's getting off
yeah,
work and trying to settle out for the night.
and
Nah,
when,
I don't see too much wrong with stuff like that. That's not a big deal as far as that's concerned. But
right,
if you're rolling down the block every day banging, chances
well,
are all those logos you got stuck to your car is going to draw some unwanted attention you don't want.
yeah, well, the truck the truck you can't drive anywhere without somebody noticing. And the one comment I was getting for a while there was like 4 years ago. What is that? Made in Russia. Are you communist? And it's like, no. Well, you are if you've got Russian stuff. And it's like, no, I'm not. They're not a communist country anymore. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, just they make car audio. Oh, is it anything like Kicker or JL? No, I'll let you listen to it. Okay.
Hey, you're
You
welcome to pull up in it.
Then they're like, or one of my favorites was the bass doesn't sound right. And I'm sitting there kind of chuckling, going, well, that's because instead of tuning it at 47 hertz, we're listening to 16 hertz.
Yeah, you're not really listening to something more as you're taking the impact from the subsonic wave more than anything, Yeah, you're right. It's going to sound a little different there than what your kicker system is,
Yeah.
Kicker was sound reproduction quality. They're not made really to get dirty and get hard. They can on some of their models, but Stillwater Designs was made for quality, clarity, reproduction. Misconception all day.
Yeah, and I kind of just laughed because, the people were like, oh, well, this is, it doesn't sound the same. And I was all, well, if I tuned it up a little higher and brought it into like the 30s maybe, but after doing tests, the cab doesn't like, it likes those lows. It likes 21 to 24. The glass doesn't really like it, but that's okay.
No, that's my issue there is like in that anywhere from like 17 hertz to about 38 hertz. I'm just waiting for the glass to pop, and I am so shocked it has not gone. I am so shocked. At finals, what was it? There at the beginning of finals, I was up there with Dan, and I made it through like 3 of my music categories, and I had so much still going on there that it tore the wood lags out of my roof where my pole was mounted to, because I was still flexing that bad. I had to throw my teammate up on the roof of the car. And I posted the video on the Def Bonce USA page there, where I was like, dude, here at DB, we don't hold on for 8 seconds, we hold on for 30. And you should watch him scramble and on time. I will tell anybody watching, I threw the rookie on the roof. Exactly. And that's a funny story here. Is Ethan Niles is his name. Okay. That guy came on as a prospect and a rookie for my local team this year and still managed to come out ahead on getting sponsored by Team DB on his first probationary year. So, he came out the gate swinging, and he's one of those guys that's starting off in the street category, but you might want to keep an eye on him because I think that's going to change here real quick this next season. I threw him on top of the roof there. I was like, okay. And if you watch that video, you can watch the pole, behind the windshield underneath him, just wobbling like crazy. And he is trying for dear life to stay on top of that roof. It is absolutely hilarious. But every time I get in that car and I fire it off, I wonder if it's going to break something new. I'm waiting for that glass to go. I already tore like the lateral brace that goes across the top of the windshield that connects to the actual roof sheet metal. I've ripped that and torn it like 3 times now. I mean, I've put the boots to that poor little Focus for about the last 5 years now. But the thing is it won't die. It refuses to die. And that's why we ended up.
It's been holding its own and then some.
Every year it continues to go up in DB score. I mean, I don't really have to try that hard in that car to go up. For whatever reason, there's maybe somebody's doing some work while I'm sleeping or something. There's some magic gnomes or something that are making some adjustments while I'm napping. I don't know, but that car always goes up a number. It has to be because And the funny part about it is the only thing that I've done to the interior of that cabin is I
Yeah.
put some Vibraflex in the roof. That's all that's in that cabin.
Mm.
And it still rung out 160 plus like it was nothing. And I was blown away, to be honest with you. I was shooting for it, but I thought I was going to come up short onto it. And it still held it with mostly a stock cabin.
Yeah.
In full disclosure, I kind of went in there to go prove a point that you don't have to make like a specific vehicle to actually be able to put up a number. You can still take your daily driver, put some work into it, and still drop off, a 60 plus, no problems. And I did that at like 8,000 watts. So it wasn't like I was
Nice.
using a tremendous amount of power to even do it. I mean,
Right.
it blew me away the results I had because I expected it to be about 12 to about 13,000 watts is realistically what I expected. So when I threw my meter over next to Dan's turn lab there and I hooked up the clamp separate while I was doing that burp, we popped it off and I'm like, all right, and even my poor boy team was sitting there taking bets on, how much power it was going to take. And nobody got it right. Everybody was like, 10, 11, 14. No, we were all wrong. And it ended up dropping it off through there. And it completely just, yeah, it was a good day. We'll say that. You can watch the video on that one too, because that was a great day at finals there. But if you put in the time and you build the foundations right, the rest of it'll come through. And I got a great group of guys, not only on my team, but in my community that helped me all year. Those custom subs, I can tell you those are Tage and Cole specials. When we redid those subs and dropped them from 21s to 18s, that guy put them together for me custom. And I'm telling you right now that every time he does any work for me, it's always amazing. So, having people that you work with in your community can also profit you, but profit them too. You may not make any money, but you might achieve your goals a little quicker too. So that kind of comes back to that. Be a decent person in the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
I think it
I'm not a
also
decent
plays,
person because I'm looking for favors, but
though, I also think, though, especially with like a manufacturer team, if they see that you're cool and you get along with a bunch of people, the only thing I've noticed with some is, they like that. But then I've noticed in some places, and I'm not saying no names, I'm not saying no teams or any branding or anything like that, but I have seen other brands and stuff come up to people and be like, hey, we will give you to join our team. And it's like, I was talking to one of my buddies over in overseas,
honestly,
and I told him,
that's like a big no-no in my books, though. We call that poaching.
mm-hmm,
We call that
yeah,
poaching.
well,
You don't respect that other company or that other team enough to not go through the back door. Is how I view
yeah.
that sort of scenario. If I'm with somebody, I'm with somebody. That's it. That's where my loyalties lie.
Seeing when I saw what is it? Because we have garage or team Stradivari, I think, also.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sorry, I had to flip that over. And what I noticed about, if I'm correct, Team Stradivari is Team Stradivari, Team Def Bonce is Team Def Bonce, even though they're all Alphard group.
Yes. That's and when you're looking at like the Team Def Bonce USA team, that also includes Canada too.
Yeah.
Eh,
Okay.
we got some guys north of the border. We got some good teammates up there north of the border in Canada too.
Dude, one of my favorite cars comes from over there. And I know he was wanting to sell it. And I really pray that he didn't sell it because Vasily's in his Audi wagon. Yeah, that thing's dope, dude. and there's a Neo 21 for you. What up, Ignat?
I would say they keep building that Mustang, and I'm telling you, every time that they post up a picture of that, I keep trying to tell them, I was like, "Come on, man, hook a teammate up. I want that 32 because I'm trying to get to a point where I retire the Focus, and I'm looking for kind of a
That's a
smaller
Ford.
SUV, and I'm looking to get that guy just kind of off the line. I might do something a little bit different down the road with it there, but I kind of want to work on a new
Oh,
build with a smaller SUV. And
I've got
I keep pounding
I've
them. I'm
got a
like, dude,
perfect build for you. I've got a perfect build
I
for you.
was telling them, I'm like, dude, send me that 32. How much? Tell me. I don't care.
Hmm.
Here's my credit card, my firstborn child. Sorry, son, you're gonna have to go live with these people now.
Garage 54 style, bro.
Mm.
They got together with Bonce and they took one of their Lotta wagons and made the whole back end an enclosure and cut a hole and dropped the 32 in from the roof.
I mean, sometimes it's whatever you got to do, right?
Yeah. But then,
Sometimes it's about originality, regardless. Bet you
well,
haven't
I
seen this.
laughed, right? And then there's a guy named Al Ondo, or Low Bass Brothers is what they're called over there. And he's done a lot of work, but he had a little like hatchback, like almost and it's more shaped like the 94 and older, where it had the Honda hatch, where it had the longer sloped window
Okay. It
versus
wasn't the
the
flat back.
straight up and down like the 89 flat back.
Yep.
But that sloped, it was they're another car called Lotta over there. It's a huge company, Auto Vaz, Lotta. That's all the same, basically. And it's a 2112, and it's a two-door. I think it's what he used, and he put a 32-inch. He became part of the team 32 for throwing the 32-inch sub in there, and that thing was nasty, nasty.
The thing about it is and it's a guy thing. It is. It's really a guy thing. Is the bigger the better. That's not always the case. But man, it's really hard to ignore the appearance of anything like a 21 or bigger, sitting in like a sixth order, just sitting there perched by itself. It's really hard to ignore something like that. So even if I didn't get the numbers that I was looking for, you still
Yeah.
got that what the hell is that factor that you get, that look on people's faces. They're like, that's not it. Oh, that's a lot bigger than I thought it was. Oh geez, what is that? I got a lot of
Well,
that this year too. They're looking in, seeing that big 21 just hanging out behind that octoport, and you'd always get that,
well, I
well,
was
that's
gonna,
that's not an 18. What is that?
I was gonna say your custom builds, those 18s with the 21 motors, those have to look
Yep.
sick inverted.
Now they look amazing inverted, but the way that I had to do this flat wall and everything else, I actually dropped that thing down to bare sheet metal. It was me and Jay Federstein out of Cherokee, Iowa. Me and him dropped that whole thing down to bare metal on one Friday, Saturday. I came back the next Friday, Saturday. We built the frame and everything and slid it in. And then the third weekend that I was up there, Friday and Saturday, we buttoned that thing up. So we actually did this like if you count the days, it was probably about 6 or 7 honest working days on this thing. So we were kind of in a hurry. I would have liked to have done something on the back end of that enclosure to kind of maybe a window or something just so you could see those motors, because I don't care what Neo it is. It doesn't matter if it's column, pillar, or whatever style Neo motor arrangement. They just look cool. Okay. Even if they don't function for crap, they still look awesome. So there is still some value, even if it's a piece of crap speaker, you know?
Yeah, but I think the 32's motor and the 21's motors, those things are just, to me, those things are cool.
They're insanely heavy. It took 3 middle-aged men to load both of those 18s each. It was, oh god, I thought one of us was going to have a heart attack. You know, you start to get up in those ages where you know you have to start worrying about your heart, and it was about damn near killing us. So that all the combined weight onto those is about 126 pounds each. Well, when you're trying to load them vertical into a flat wall, you know, and you got one guy with his hand back there in the aeroport cutout trying to hold the back of the vent pole, and you got one guy through the other opening over here with an arm in there, and then you got the one guy who's trying to center it up onto the, you know, the cutout for it and drill it real quick without putting something through it. It was terrible. If you actually would have put it up for a bloopers highlight reel, it'd probably have 1 million views, but but those things are heavy. I mean, you don't realize that they don't look that heavy, but when you pick them up, whew.
Well, about the 32, I was talking to Victor, messaging back and forth, you know, using translator, and I was like, because he blew one in the Escalade. And I was like, bro, those things are like, they've got to be like 80 keys. And he's like,
at least.
He goes, yeah, abouts. And I was like, he told me what they were, and it was over 160 pounds for just 132. And I'm sitting there laughing, going, bro, that damn sub's heavier than I am.
Okay, big boy subs sound cool until you have to put in big boy subs, you know.
Right.
You got to get your pit crew together there and an engine hoist to get it in. You know, it sounds awesome until you have to do it.
Well, that's where I kind of laughed, because one of the shops that he blew them at, you know, those dudes were yoked, but it was still 2 of them wiggling their way into this port and everything. And I'm sitting there going, you know, I probably would have made it to where those port walls could have came out with the seats.
You make an interesting point here, right? I gotta speak on behalf of all the skinny guys that end up getting stuck climbing into the ports like you're a tunnel rat in Vietnam. Okay.
Yep.
let me advocate for all of us guys who have to go digging into those ports for everybody. Treat your skinny boys right. Feed them, but don't feed them too much. Otherwise, we can't work for you.
Well, you just got to give us a couple days off. So we can absorb.
That's about it too there. Exactly.
Yeah, 9x16s. I think, 9x16 when I was working up on roofs and doing heating and air conditioning in college. Now I'm still, unfortunately, about 16 inches wide, but it's now about 10, maybe 12. But yeah, that's still a tiny ass hole.
Right. Well, and I'm like 6'1" and 175 pounds. I'm straight up and down, man. If I turn sideways, you might miss me. Okay, so I'm not a big guy, so it doesn't matter who it is that needs somebody to climb into a port. I'm usually the guy that ends up doing it, you know.
Yep.
And then just like somebody being born in reverse, you know, it's just nothing but feet hanging out going in.
Yeah, and I think even some of the 5'9", even though I think it would be kind of cool to be 5'9", but I don't want to shrink. But or 5'8" or 5'5", you know, I mean, that wouldn't be so bad. You know.
Not so bad at 175, but
No, I'm saying like 5'5" and 130. It'd be kind of nice to have
Well,
one of those guys around.
at that point, you could kind of just make an 18 cutout and just throw them through the hole at that point. I still
Exactly.
got some shoulders. I can't quite make it past those 18 cutouts. So, that's the only thing that saves me from that happening to me too.
Yeah.
Stuff his skinny ass in that hole. Put him to work.
Yeah, Mikey knows. Boombox Mike knows about that. We all fit in
There's
18-inch holes, no problem.
there's a couple of us on the team that are kind of built slender, so we usually end up being the tunnel rats for everybody else. But yeah, on behalf of all of the skinny men, y'all need to go to the gym so you can do your own shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like 60 and still trying to help out base heads by climbing into the back of a sixth order and then end up with a bad case of dementia and can't figure out how to get the hell out of it.
Right.
Where the hell am I?
I can't fit the port the other way.
That's about the
You
truth
guys
of
need
it,
to
though.
sand an inch. You guys need to sand an inch out of the port so I can flip out that way.
Somebody, well, you even have sometimes you're trying to do that stuff in the middle of the night, and you're trying to do a quick fast repair so you can get them back up on board the next morning, and you can't see where the
Yeah.
hell you're going because nobody's got a flashlight, so you're just digging around in this box through a hole that you barely fit into. Oh yeah, just reach back there and grab that wire. I'm like, dude, there's 12 of them back here in my hand. Which one?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I should keep going forward or if I'm supposed to go backwards to get out of this box at this point.
I laughed because I was inside an enclosure one time and I asked the buddy as I was reaching my hand out through the port, he was giving me the screwdriver that I asked for, but it was one of the little itty bitty ones. And it straight stuck me right here in the wrist. So, and I was like, oh, and I'm all, that don't feel right. And he goes, leave your hand. I said, nah, give me it and I'll pull it out myself. I said, I know what's stuck to my hand right now. And he's like, sorry, bro, I didn't mean to do that. I said, it's all good. And pulled it out. There. Got the light LED strip popped open to where we could change it out and everything. And I was like, all right. Got out of that box. I was like, all right, next time, pay attention to where my hand is, bro. And remember, I can't see when my hand's reaching out there.
I had something like that this year. We were one of the central area and Midwest openers was Superfest down there with Super Dave, which if that's a great show if you can make it. By the way, Dave and the guys down in the Casey's crew down there are really good people. So it's a great time. I was helping Paul Nazar out in the parking lot after we had gotten done that day, and I think he was trying to fix a short that was going on with one of the subs. And if you've seen Paul Nazar's build, the guy does like a 170, and the thing is just intense. But he's built just like me. He's a tall, skinny guy. I didn't know that anybody was in Paul's truck, so I'm walking through the parking lot out here at this hotel that he was at, and I see his doors kind of crooked open. I'm like, well, I better go check, because I don't see anything going on in that truck, and I don't see anybody around. Is somebody, up in that truck messing around? And I pop the door, and all you hear is, "Hand me a screwdriver," and then all of a sudden you see a light. But it was so dark in there, and he was tucked into his box so much so that I didn't even know anybody was in there until his hand is reaching out of his port. And then all of a sudden I see this glimmer of a flashlight, and I hear this, "Hand me a flashlight," and all you see is this hand doing this. I'm like, whoa. That was pretty good though. He scared the shit out of me for a second there when he did that too. I was like, somebody in that truck, and all of a sudden you just see a hand come out. It's like a bad horror movie only for base heads.
Right.
It's like The Conjuring. All of a sudden they just come out of the dark at you.
Kind of like that.
If you know Paul Nazar for a second though, I mean he's just kind of like that, man. You never know what to expect from him, and Even when you think you do know what to expect from that guy, he'll surprise you again.
Nice.
Well, sir,
And I know that
I'm kind of.
running around with like our uniform or well, any of the brand stuff, and I think this goes for anybody's brand. If you're running around branded up, you should be doing good things, and stuff like that, and don't be acting a fool. And yeah,
Always think
I
about the
think
step in front of you, man.
yeah,
Always think about the step in front of you, and then think about the fact that if you if you go out there and misrepresent a company that put their invested time into you and the trust that you're out there doing what you're supposed to be doing, if you misrepresent that, then you have to look at that company is going to start losing profit. Okay. You
big
start
time.
taking profit away, then you're taking money out of other families' pockets. If you have to look
Yeah,
at it in that kind of extreme, it's an extreme example, but that literally is what could happen there. And with
yep,
audio manufacturers these days too, they come and go. A lot of audio manufacturers in the last 10 years have come and went. So
yeah,
if you're giving the brand a bad reputation here,
right,
that company that you love and that equipment that you love can go away very quickly, and that can be
right,
from those negative situations happening, and it's by no fault of the company. It's the people
right.
out there representing them are so poor at character or something. Not to say that I'm saying anybody specifically. I'm just saying in a general sense there. It it goes the same for local teams too. Your local team should be part of your community too. Okay, you don't have to volunteer at the soup kitchen and all this stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying there too. But like a lot of our guys will go out to the car shows and the street racer events and stuff like that. Be out there with those guys too. Support what they're doing. You're not all doing the same thing, but the auto community can catch some bad stereotypes and stuff like that. So if you're all kind of banded up and you're all
Right.
doing the same thing the right way, then that auto community as a general looks better there too. And then when it comes down
Right.
to, if you're supporting the guys out in your community, when they have a car show, they have no problem giving you some space at their car show.
Yeah.
You know, hey, if you guys want to come set up a competition, I'm sure there'd be plenty of people who'd love to see that too. Absolutely. When
Yeah.
is it? What can I do for you? You need some cash for some sponsor money, or what do you need to do? And that's one of the things too that, okay, shops sponsor shows to
Yeah.
try and generate a little bit of capital themselves there. That's product promotion for those guys. Go support the shops.
Right.
Now, when we put anything towards a show, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to be straightforward honest, we don't expect anything in return. If I hand you $1,000 for a show, I'm not looking to make any money from that. I am simply doing it because I want to support the community. And
Yeah.
that is one of the biggest things that, people get caught up in that whole thing. They're like, well, what's in it for me? What's the return? What's the profit? Well, how about
Yeah.
being a good dude? How about being a good dude,
Right.
man? How about that? That's worth
Yeah.
something to me.
Well,
It's worth
I
something to every
mean,
one of my guys on my local team, at least.
I honestly think for the shops doing like the shop shows and stuff like that, having manufacturers, even if it's not the brand that I sell at my shop per se, you know, because I know for a fact most of these shops, well, every shop that's around does not sell Def Bonce equipment in my area until you go down to Sacramento with Steve Mead, you know, and I'm not sure how far up north you have to go before you run into somebody selling Def Bonce equipment in Oregon or anything, you know. or if he has to go up to Washington or Idaho. So, oops. I wonder if his phone died. Darn it. But yeah, guys, like Eric was saying, support your local shops and stuff. Some shops might even be willing to try out some new brands, but all you'd have to do is ask. I mean, but then in some areas like where I'm at, it might be easier just to try and start a shop and pick the brand that's not something everybody else has. Because for not having all the same equipment as everybody else, you are going to stand out. And what? I want to say hi. And I know that Eric mentioned on the Base Wars video that was last week, applications are coming out in December. So there is that. Yeah. And as far as for Team Base Cat, need a cat, need to be cool, need to have a stereo system. The more pictures you post, that's cool. We do have our own vinyls. This is the supporter sticker. Well, most of it. Unfortunately, it came back from Slamology. But yeah. So I'm going to shut this one down, and I will see you all later. And if you want to get a hold of Eric, I'll put, I think I've tagged his link in here, but I'll look at it and see if I haven't. But he's on Facebook. He is one of my friends. So, yeah, if you want to get a hold of me to get a hold of him, we can do that. If you want to know more about teams or anything like that, get a hold of me or him or some of the other people that are throughout the chat. And there is a difference between manufacturing teams, national teams, local teams. So, y'all have a good night. God bless. And we'll see you next time. And hopefully we'll be doing an episode of Baseheads. We all started somewhere. And get those going again. All right? And maybe even have Eric Carver back. So have a good night, guys.